So I found this the other day, and I think this is probably one of the most unsettling feelings that I've felt kind of in a while since, gosh, since I watched Chernobyl. I don't know why this grossed me out. Um, Today we're talking about a small town funeral home in Colorado, and this is a story that's pretty ridiculous, to say the least. In terms of corruption and trying to make some money, this is just completely evil. So picture this. It's Penrose, Colorado. It's a quiet town. Population around 3,000 people. It's a kind of place, everybody knows everybody. There's a local high school, the team, there's, shops, there's a main street. But back in 2023, something pretty crazy happened. People started, smelling this really foul stench, and coming from a funeral home, and I'm sure you guys have heard this story. I can't believe I didn't hear this because this is crazy. At first people thought dead animals, whatever, but there's a funeral home right there, or sewage, but it didn't go away. And it's, people started to avoid the area. And then finally, I guess, some people called, or somebody called. So the authorities arrive, and, they think it's probably like a broken pipe or just, something. But they found something completely different. When they walked inside, the smell first hit them. And I actually read an account, I'll say a little later, but so they smelled rot, decay. It just got in your nose and everything. Ugh. And they were just seeing dead bodies everywhere. And this is in a funeral home. And they found 189 bodies. So when I read that, I was just like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. It turned out that these people, Jon and Carie Hallford, the owners of the funeral home, had been running a scheme, essentially preying on families, and they advertised green burials, which means eco-friendly, no chemicals, and metal caskets, or no chemicals or metal caskets or anything harmful, right? So, but instead they just were pocketing the money and storing bodies everywhere, which I don't understand why they would do that, not even try to hide it or anything. When families requested cremations, they just handed over urns filled with dry concrete, or with random ashes. So this went on for years, and some of the bodies dated back to 2019, meaning for 4 years they kept up with these bodies just in this place, completely stinking and decomposing everywhere. They found bodies that were dated back to 2019. And when investigators started piecing the timeline together, financial records show that they had collected nearly $900,000, also through pandemic relief funds. So they were also committing fraud at a pretty high level, along with the countless other Americans that were were doing that. But this just goes completely beyond. This is insane. But it gets worse. So when officials began trying to identify the remains, they found that many of the bodies were too decomposed to be recognized. So families who had been told that their loved ones were at peace were now just, they had no idea, so my father and my brother both passed away. And, if this would have happened, to my dad or my brother, I mean, I can't even comprehend the the anger I would have. Like, this is completely disrespecting, you know, somebody. And this is horrible. This is evil. The community's reaction was a mix of outrage and heartbreak, and protesters erupted outside of the funeral home, and families came forward with their stories. One woman paid nearly $7,000 for a full service, only to find out that her grandmother had been one of the bodies left to decompose. It was betrayal on the deepest level, not just a violation of trust, but yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like it's a sacred act. People didn't get to say goodbye properly. And this is crazy. I know this is fairly recent, but I couldn't believe that I didn't find this. So when Hallfords were finally arrested, they tried to run. They were caught in Oklahoma, still clinging to the hope that they would escape the consequences of what they've done. During the trial, they showed little remorse. Their defense trying to paint them as overwhelmed with business who simply fell behind on paperwork. Couldn't they have just gone and like buried the bodies somewhere? Like, just to leave them in the facility. I don't understand. I still don't understand that. The court heard testimonies from employees who had been told to look the other way, and from neighbors who had been questioning the smell for years. Gosh, this is disgusting. In the end, Jon and Carie Hallford pleaded guilty to federal charges of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, along with over 200 state charges, including abuse of corpses, forgery, and money laundering. They were each sentenced up to 15 years in prison. That is not enough time. That is crazy. And they're probably going to get released before that, which honestly feels like they were also ordered to pay $950 million in civil judgment, but realistically, they're not going to be able to pay that, first of all. And there's no amount of money that can do anything. That's just I guess there was photos of just stacked bodies on top of one another in multiple rooms. 40 bodies in a homemade refrigerator unit. And they also showed a floor of a building covered in dark brown liquid, which an FBI agent who took the witness stand said was fluid from human decomposition. He said authorities had to put cardboard on the floors to avoid slipping, and there was so much fluid. During the investigation, the FBI brought in a septic company to try and vacuum up the fluids. Yeah, and I heard that an FBI agent or somebody that was doing testing or something just broke out in a rash just from the decomposing bodies and the smell. There's insects all over the floors and walls and all over the building, as well as the windows were covered with curtains or foil, probably to prevent everybody from knowing. Bodies blocking the doorways and windows blackened out so nobody can look. So the return to nature case led to a complete overhaul of how funeral homes are inspected and managed, and that's a good thing. But it's horrible that this happened, recently, and we're just now that was what is going to create stricter guidelines. It's hard to wrap your head around something like this. I mean, that's like 4 years of storing bodies, not refrigerated, sitting there, decomposing, not really hidden, which is, I completely just, the people who were ordering these or taking their business, did they not go into the office or into the facility? Stories like this are a reminder of how important it is to ask questions, to push for answers, and when something doesn't feel right, like a smell or something seems off, it's easy to overlook those small details and things, but those small things can reveal a much more horrifying picture beneath, what's there. And this is just appalling. you know, $900,000. That's, first of all, I don't even know what was, I don't know what they made from the funeral stuff, but like, you know, that's not really a lot of money. And to disrespect, you know, people's loved ones in the way that they did, they should be in jail they should be in prison for life. Thank you guys. You know, I'm trying something new. I'm Ariel from Evil Exposed. I'll see you guys later.